Hey, everybody. Evan here. Greg and I hope you had a reflective Resurrection Sunday and you enjoyed your Easter.
Yeah.
As you know, we're believers in Christ, and we try to make that known on the show. It says in 1 Corinthians 15, 3 through 4, "For I delivered to you as of first importance what I also received, that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, and that he was buried, that he was raised on the third day according to the Scriptures." Have this verse be the anthem of your lawn care business this upcoming season. I mean, we always say, Greg and I always say this, it's more than just a lawn care business.
Yeah.
And we're actually starting our full-time mowing schedule, as you hear this.
I used to work at the Country Club of Lansing when I was in college.
Also, we have a return guest on the show, Gerd Bauer of Mag-6000. This is going to be a really good one, guys. They have a new product that Greg and I personally think is really interesting and will be really beneficial to you landscapers who prune and trim bushes. I know we have guys who do a lot more bush trimming and pruning than Greg and I. Just a warning, though, this episode does have some visuals to it, so if you want to watch it on our YouTube channel, Turf Nerds, you can, but you can listen to it and you'll be just fine. And don't forget, guys, about getting a website for your business. Our friend and founder of Green Frog Web Design, Ezra McCarthy, he's running the single lawn care website page special for $99 a month. Hop on that, but you have to tell them that Uncle Greg sent you. If you don't, Greg is literally going to come over and scalp your lawn.
All right.
Remember, save half off at the Equip Expo with code Turf Nerds. That's all one word. And if you want a sticker, a free Turf Nerd sticker, email me, turfnerdspodcast@proton.me. Enjoy the show and stay sharp.
Really?
Hey, it's Aaron with the Mowing in the Dark Lawn Care Podcast.
Hey, this is Tony's Lawn Care Talk.
Hey guys, Cameron here with the Lawn Care Life in Missouri.
Hey guys, this is Dan White with Lawn Care Unscripted.
What up, guys? It's Phil with Phil's Lawn Care.
And you're listening to the Turf Nerds.
Greg, we have our second reoccurring guest on Turf Nerds, a lawn care podcast, don't we?
That's right. Hey, look at that. That's two of them for us. That's great.
It is. Last time Gerd Bauer was on our show was on episode 61, where we talked about the truth of the lawnmower blades, guys. And if you don't know what Mag-6000 is, they're at the expo, but they're known for their lawnmower blade sharpeners like the Mag-6200. I bought one. It's out of this world. But Garrett, we just want to hop right into this. What kind of inspired Mag-6000 to branch out into hedge trimmer blade sharpeners? Because I think you're the first company to have a hedge trimmer blade sharpener. It's a Mag-6000. So let's hop right into it.
We are the first ones to make a dedicated machine for hedge trimmer blade sharpening. And really, like a lot of things, we listen very closely to our customers. We're very plugged in when people are telling us stuff about what are pain points, what they'd like to see from us, so on and so forth. And for years, we got questions of, hey, it'd be really cool if you guys came out with a hedge trimmer sharpener. No one has a good way of doing this. Commonly, people are using, sometimes angle grinders or Dremels or other little fine handheld belt grinders, the real little small ones like from Milwaukee or other brands like that, sometimes files. But no matter what, none of those options really keep the same angle. Oh, I should mention too, there are some add-ons or jigs for chainsaw sharpeners that do exist, but now you're clamping and unclamping for every single tooth. And so no matter what, with the number of teeth that you have on hedge trimmer blades, it becomes a ton of work because you've got all these little edges, sometimes on both sides of the teeth and teeth on both sides of the blade, that people were, spending 40 minutes or an hour trying to sharpen one by hand. And then, if shops did do it, would have to charge a lot because there's so much labor involved. And we just looked at how can we get the labor out of that or reduce it as much as possible and still provide an accurate tooth grind repeatedly that any operator can do, right? We want to take a bunch of the difficulty out of this. And so it's not such a skilled thing that kind of anybody can walk up to the machine to do it. That's the concept.
Greg, it's a pretty intricate concept, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. How long did it take you guys to develop this? You said you've been people asking you for years. How long? Okay, hey, let's do something. How long did it take to finally come up with the Mag-6000?
So I'd say realistically, in kind of terms of your dreaming and research and development time, it was probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 or 7 years or more that we were toying with the idea. But it wasn't probably until the last, let's say, 2 years where we kind of hit the gas real hard and started moving on it and, solving the problems that we saw and really started making prototypes and testing and doing all these things. So it's long, but it's short at the same time. So, as far as that goes.
Well, that would have been pretty fun to just see that thing from start to fruition. That's got to be. It's just got to give you a nice sense of, hey, we know what we're doing. We did this, and we're the first ones to do this. That's pretty exciting.
It's neat seeing a product come together like that. As far as you have ideas and you're trying this, and then all of a sudden you realize this path you're going is just not going to work, right? It's like you're going here and this is just, or you find that it can be something in manufacture which is so much different than what sometimes a lot of landscapers experience being in the service industry. In the manufacturing side of it, one of the different things is like, when you're developing a product, you can be going down a path for a while and then realize this path is going to be very difficult to manufacture, and therefore it's going to make that product cost more because it's too difficult to make. And then you also have things of where, you're looking at that, not only how can you make it easily, but you want it to last, you want it to do the job over time. And so there are just kind of a lot of aspects to it. It's not that manufacturing is so wild or something like that. Every business has its challenges, right? But that's one of those things about when you're designing a product, having to really deal with all these things, as well as like even supply chain stuff. We work very hard to keep all of the parts and products and any vendors we use to make American-made components. If we use any, components, most of the machine, of all the machine parts, we actually machine in-house here. So we have control over it and it's done here in our factory. But there are still components like electrical components that are not made in the United States where, sourcing is something that has to be looked at. So it's a whole kind of different animal when you look at that, getting all these things to come together when you've got hundreds and hundreds of parts in the machine that either have to be zinc plated or some have to be painted, some need to stay raw, some need to be stainless steel. Trying different belt lengths, different belt speeds, what speed ratio to the hardness of the metal to what abrasive you're going to choose.
Wow.
At somebody's rate of them pushing against the blade is going to burn or not burn. There are all these factors that come into it to make a machine that functions properly. This is fascinating, Gary, because when Greg and I saw this at the expo, I was just blown away because since the Mag-6000 is billed as the industry's first dedicated hedge trimmer blade sharpener, so you've already touched on this like a little bit, but what really does make it different from the generic belt sander or die grinder, and which a lot of pros use? And I would say, guys, like the selling points for this are awesome because it has a consistent 45-degree chisel edge angle, and it's a large 14 by 41 table for the blade support. So I guess what makes it different, because I didn't even really know you could sharpen really hedge trimmer blades until recently. And let's be honest, Garrett, I mean, you tell us first that hedge trimmer blades aren't, they're not cheap, and guys just don't know how to do it. And this is really good like information for guys down in Florida and the southern states who kind of landscape all year, who I know guys who hedge trim like a lot, like Greg and I probably do like 5 or 6 jobs a year, but this could be a really good profit maker for guys who hedge trim a lot. Absolutely. And that was one of the things that really kind of got us very interested, because when you start hearing some landscapers who have, 30 to 50 hedge trimmers in their total equipment fleet, you're going, oh my God, they are using a lot of blades, right? And we even heard from some companies where, it was kind of a nightmare for them when at the end of the year, when it came time to buy new blades for all the hedge trimmers, I mean, the outlay of cash was kind of high because generally speaking, I'm going to give a big wide range here, but and some of our research, as well as, some people telling us prices and stuff like that. But hedge trimmer blades can be anywhere from as low as, kind of $70. I think I've heard of some of the lower ones up to even, I mean, some people have told me some of the real super long double, this is a shorter one, but these double-sided where you've got teeth on both sides. And then when you get the full 3 foot long ones, some of those get to be $200-300 a set. I mean, where they have plenty of material to resharpen them, but people, because you can't, and the time-consuming nature of it, people just aren't. And so it's this point of a lot of money could be saved because there's plenty of blade there yet to be sharpened.
That's brilliant, Greg. What do you got with that, Greg?
Well, I've just found it interesting because for years I always thought they were kind of self-sharpening. So I feel kind of silly right now because I always thought those things rubbing back and forth were actually sharpening. How long does it take? Hours? Because we talk about mower blades. You've talked about that before. You sharpen your mower blades every 8 to 12, 15 hours. How often should you be sharpening these blades then?
So this question, I don't have as clear an answer as with mower blades. Mower blades, thankfully, lawn is a little bit more consistent than what people are putting through hedge trimmer blades. When you think about hedges or more wooded type bushes and hedges and cedars and things like that, those, of course, are going to dull a little bit more when you have these harder materials versus like people using hedge trimmers to, let's say, during fall cleanup when you gather up ornamental grasses and you cut those off. So there's going to be kind of a pretty wide varying rate of a service interval. So I don't have a beautiful kind of number of hours for that yet. Just because of the variability of what people cut with them, as well as another thing we see from a lot of people, the damage they incur, because oftentimes when people are using them, if they are careless or they slip, the first couple teeth oftentimes get drug into the ground. If somebody's trying to get close to something in the ground. So they're taking a lot more damage and nicks and things like that from actually getting into the earth. People hit sometimes fencing and other things, and where you get nicks and damage, of course, as well. So I don't have a wonderful answer on that as far as an exact number of hours, as well as there's going to be some variation across manufacturers probably as well.
Man, Greg, you stumped them with a good question there. I would take a stab at, though, Gary, if I had to guess. So I have a Stihl hedge trimmer, and I've had it for, 3 or 4 years now. And by God's grace, I haven't dinged up any rocks or anything like that. And you can kind of feel the sharpness of the hedge trimmer blade is kind of running your finger underneath, and it feels sharp. But guys who use it like a lot, I mean, I'm sure that probably dulls out quickly. And then you don't want to use a hedge trimmer blade like a chainsaw, but... Now, what's is cool about this, though, Garrett, is it can handle both single and double-edged blades that supports over 36 inches. Now, how does this design, like the blade fences, ensure that every tooth gets the same depth, especially on those longer blades there?
Right. So what changes from, you could say, manufacturer to manufacturer is the, we call it tooth depth, from here to here. Can we see that on the screen? Okay. From here to here, basically how long this tooth is out in this direction. And then you could say the angle or pitch of the tooth in this direction. What's consistent is that 45-degree chisel edge angle. And we have fences on the machine that there are knobs below that you can move them to adjust them in different positions. The way someone would initially set up the machine is they would first bring the tooth up And your view is not going to be great. We're a little far away, but you would
I'm sorry, if I could just interrupt you just for a second, Gary. Guys, if the
Come on, man.
this is for our listeners. This is a good audio or a good visual for everybody, because Garrett's got we forgot to mention it. Garrett's got the equipment actually here. He's going to show you how to sharpen everything, and he's got everything laid out for us. So just if you have a chance to watch, go ahead and make sure you're watching, because some guys just listen, but this is a really good observational one for them. So I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Thank you very much.
No problem. I'll go through a little in an audio format too, so it's understandable. So essentially, the machine runs an abrasive belt over 3 pulleys. There's a pulley here in the rear, up front, and then one down on the motor. So there actually isn't a drive belt. The abrasive belt is also the drive belt. So we run that belt over a hard backing so that we can get that chisel edge. And the way to initially set the fence for a blade would be to touch off that tooth against the belt. It's very easy because of the area you have to feel the pitch. So me moving the blade this way or rocking it back and forth, I'm able to very easily not only visually see, but feel that the whole tooth is touching against the belt and the backer. And then once I have that, I would set, and currently the fences are set for this blade. I would hold each fence down, tighten it, bring this fence up to the teeth here, tighten that one. And now I have a consistent straight line for all the teeth to touch off when I go from tooth to tooth sharpening, and then each grind is consistent. And so that's how the fence is set. Now, because we have both teeth on both sides, you would also stand on the other side of this machine. There's another fence in the rear, back here where I'm pointing, but there's only one front fence. So when we would do a blade on the other side, we would loosen the front fence, swing it out of the way, touch the blade off to the rear fence to then match where the front fence should be. And so what ends up being really nice is if you only have one brand of hedge trimmer, which is often the case for most shops or landscapers, you leave these rear fences set and you're only ever swinging the front one just to match. So basically, you touch off the back one, bring up the front one, tighten it, and you're ready to go from side to side. So you can switch from side to side very quickly, especially when you're doing the same blade over and over.
That's nice. That's great. Especially you said something that those that most landscapers they're gonna carry the same kind for parts and such. So if they have something break down, this is perfect for working with something like that for those guys that have the 10, 20, 30 hedge trimmers. That's going to be perfect for those kind of guys. So
yeah, but even the sharpening shop or servicing dealer that would have to deal with it, the touch off at the belt to set the fences for a new blade still only takes you maybe 30 seconds. It's not a long time consuming process to
it's like zip, right?
Set your depth. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. So it's got a 1 horsepower motor in it, and you use a 1.5 to 40 inch or by 40 inch belts with 100 and 120 grit options. How did you decide on those specs, and what kind of performance can users expect in terms of speed and durability of the belts, and why 100 and 120 versus which will one matter over another?
Sure. I actually have some over here. I'll pull them out just so people can see them who are watching. So unlike the belt that you'd see from our lawnmower blade sharpeners, which is a yellow belt, these, of course, are blue. This is Norton's trade name, Blue Fire. This belt was chosen because of, first of all, it having a more flexible backing, because another kind of neat feature about this backer that we have, because hedge trimmer blades have a little bit of a curve in here, in the neck, you could say, we needed a belt that would be able to flex around the corner a little bit of our backer. So we actually machine a radius on there so that when somebody pushes into that space in between each tooth, it can ride up and create a little bit of a curve and not always cut a hard line. So the Blue Fire comes on a more flexible backing, as well as it is also a ceramic belt. And the choice of the abrasive has a lot to do with not only a lot of testing, but knowing the material that the hedge trimmers are made out of, which is similar to mower blades, and then also what speed we're going to run and how much pressure can be put into something. So just like if anybody remembers the the lawnmower discussion or lawnmower blade discussion, I spoke about feeds and speeds. With all cutting tools, there are feeds and speeds. And that's kind of a machining term. What it relates to is the belt is running at a certain surface footage per minute, just like a lawnmower has a certain tip speed. Then we have our feed rate. How hard or fast am I going to push this material into the cutting tool? That's how fast you guys drive on the mower, or how much force I'm going to push into the belt. And if those feeds and speeds aren't matched to the material we're cutting, as well as the abrasive choice, you're not going to get a good result. So this is part of machine design, of having these variables line up, or these aspects line up to get the best performance. So back to then grit size. We found that a 100 grit belt was probably the lowest grit to go with for any kind of damage repair. The 100 grit will still give a decent finish to the cutting edge. It is close to the factory finish. I would say factory finishes are probably closer to 120. They could be, some manufacturers could be a little higher than that, but I would say a lot of them are kind of in that 120 when you look at them. So we're shipping the machine with a 100 grit belt on it because that belt allows you to feed in material and fix damage and really sharpen a very dull blade quickly without reaching the threshold of heat. Now, with a hedge trimmer blade, which has a unique difference to a lawnmower blade, these blades we do not have to remove hardly any material from. There's not a lot here to begin with. We're not hogging a bunch off like you would on a lawnmower blade when you, let's say, hit a rock or something. There now we're removing sometimes, quarter inch of material back. We're not doing that with this thin blade. So getting back to that feeds and speeds, if you have a really bad tooth and you try to remove the damage with the 120 grit belt, it is very easy to burn the blade because this is not cutting as fast per time for the feed rate that you're pushing against it before you get the threshold of burning. Where the 100 grit is removing material faster and you get the material gone before you reach that threshold of burning. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Greg,
that's really interesting.
This has been absolutely great, Gerd. So it does come so guys who do get this, it does have your Mag-200 dust collector outfit for it. But so you describe this as it's easy to use with no special skills. Can you walk us through the process of sharpening a hedge trimmer blade with this? From start to finish, guys. It's just a lot of visual here, though. But this is cool. Kind of walk us through. Say I'm Joe Schmo, Gerd. I've no idea. Mm-hmm. Walk me through if we're at the expo, like start to finish, like how would you do it? Because the machine looks kind of daunting, but it's not.
Yep. So first of all, and just something also to mention too, the first operation, just like with the lawnmower blade, is to clean it. Because of course here I have a really nice dirty blade where you can hopefully kind of see how grungy that one is and how dirty it is. And hedge trimmer blades can also be done in our lawnmower blade cleaner. The same machine with the dual gangs of brushes works great for hedge trimmer blades as well. You're able to completely clean the front and back of the blade just like you do with a mower blade. And so what I'll do is I'll hold these two blades together and then hold them up to the camera, and you'll be able to easily tell the sharpened and clean one from the dirty one. And here we go.
Oh yeah, it's a big difference. It's a big contrast.
Yeah, it's huge difference. Wow.
A backer on some of that. Hopefully the light's not.
No,
you can even see like the back of the blade how different that is. I mean, and it's not only dirt and sap and all kinds of vegetable material, but it's also even corrosion too.
Get old rust, right?
As these blades rust and depending on how they're cared for, but there you get kind of a...
And that one blade you ran through your blade cleaner, right?
Correct,
Is that what you
yes.
said? Okay, all right.
And so as far as the sharpening goes, we mentioned already a little bit about how to set the fences, so I won't go back into that. But essentially, I will do 3 or 4 teeth here, and you can see how simple the machine is to use. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set the blade flat on the table, and that's again too why we have such a large table. I'll stand next to this here. I'm just a hair under 6 foot, and the tabletop here is 41 inches long. And we made it that long because, of course, when I get to the end tooth over here, look at how much blade has to overhang from where the cutting is happening. So you need this big a table when you start getting some very, very long blades. And this is not even the longest blade. This, I think, is a 27. They do have them at almost 3 foot. So us keeping the blade flat on the table is very similar to the lawnmower blade sharpeners, where we have to stay flat on the table to keep our angle, because the angle is referenced inside of the machine, the geometry of the machine. And so all I'm going to do is bump up against the fence, touch against the abrasive. You'll see some sparks. I come away from the abrasive, go to the next tooth, bump up against the fences, and then push into the belt again. So I'll do a couple teeth and you'll be able to see how straightforward it is. It's really a very simple operation. So it really ends up being that simple of, having the blade flat and sliding and indexing it to each tooth. And then, for example, on this side, once we did all these teeth, you would rotate the blade around, and I would start on this end and then do all these teeth. Then the edges have their opposite side, where I would stand on the other side of the machine, swing the fence over, and then do all those teeth. And when you have essentially like a 3 foot or one of the long blades, even like this one, it generally only takes about 6 minutes to get through all the teeth.
You got to admit, Greg, it's quick, right?
6 minutes to sharpen a 27-inch blade, as opposed to trying to do that with your Dremel or something else. How much longer would that take? Granted, you're going to spend a little bit more, but just think about it's all about opportunity costs. How much time did you just save by doing the one thing versus by having to do the other? Now it gives you time to be able to go out and do the thing that you're supposed to do, which is trim hedges. So this is really impressive. How many times can you sharpen a blade? Have you been able to determine that yet, or no?
So again, that's going to vary a bit from manufacturer to manufacturer. Some of them have wider teeth than others, so it'll be based on kind of how much material is left there. So you can kind of see, I'll hold this blade up again to kind of give you an example or what to look at. Hopefully here we can see the teeth, but essentially, we've got kind of a flat end on this tooth. And of course, if I would keep grinding and grinding and grinding, that's going to get very pointed. And there'll be a limit to where if you make that completely pointed, you're going to start making that tooth shorter and shorter. So it's going to be essentially probably, I would say, when this flat area is gone and the tooth is just about pointed, you're probably not going to get real great performance out of it at that point. But like I said, again, there are some manufacturers that have, wider set, that's that tooth pitch I was talking about, a wider set tooth or a narrower set tooth, you could say. And then also the spacing in between them varies as well. That really doesn't have any effect on it, but that's another variable.
Yeah, it only takes you 2 seconds a tooth. It was roughly, that's what I was looking at when you were doing it, about 2 seconds a tooth. And
essentially, yeah. And then you do want to take a look too, because you can see when you're standing over the machine and you have the task light on, it's quite simple to see if you've touched the whole tooth or if there was a nick there and whether you've gotten it out or not. So that's pretty evident. Sometimes you might touch a tooth 2 times, 3 times, like let's say if it had a bad nick kind of thing. But to give you that reference, I would say it's that 6-7 minutes per, and again, that's half a blade. because that's just one side of the reciprocal blade. So you'd have the other side. So if you're talking about service for one hedge trimmer, it'd be kind of in that 10 to 12 minute range, roughly. And one thing that is another pain point that people have complained about and will continue to complain about, you do have to take the blades apart and out of the machine to use this machine. But that is also required to do the job correctly. Greg, as you mentioned, the idea of it saving time is one thing, but it's also not only when you get a dedicated piece of equipment, not only are you saving time, but the level of quality and repeatability of that quality is also what goes up. And that's another reason for getting dedicated equipment. So one of the things you can't kind of get away from without taking the blades out is you can't really clean them when they're in the machine. So they're going to stay full of garbage. You can't really inspect them very well if they're all covered in stuff and inside the machine. And then lastly, you can't deburr very well if they're still inside the machine. So if you're using a Dremel and things like that, keep in mind, anytime we grind, we generally push a burr, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So as we grind all this teeth, we're going to push a burr to the underside. Now, sometimes there can also be a bad nick in the blade where this isn't properly flat. And this is important for hedge trimmer blades because they reciprocate against each other, right? So like a scissors, we can't have, nicks or damage in the edges, you could say catching on each other. So deburring is another operation. And the way we handle deburring is the top of the unit opens up with this door, and we've designed this top rail so the yellow portion, and I'm not sure totally if you can see it, but there's also a silver ramp in here that supports the belt. So the belt's not just free flapping in the wind here, but we have this, we call it a ramp for the belt, that the belt is going over is slightly lower than these two side yellow rails. And we do that lowered to about the thickness of the belt so we can deburr the underside, which essentially looks like this. You put it over the top here and just lightly drag the blade across the two yellow rails.
That's simple.
And you're able to deburr the underside without digging into the material and taking away too much. And that's why that spacing is critical, to be able to just, and again, you can kind of see the underside of this blade, to just very lightly, you could say just even scratch that underside and get rid of the burr that either was there from a nick or from, let's say, heavy grinding because there was damage.
And you don't need to do that while it's running? You just kind of run it across like you just did?
I just did that so we could talk. You would have it running.
Okay, all right.
Yes, yes. You would drag it across when you're running. If let's say it was really, really minor, you could rub it across there manually, but typically you would drag it across there while it's running.
Well, we want power, though. We want to be able to just go at it.
Sure. Well, here, we'll quick do it. And so you saw when I pulled across there too, we also come at a little bit of an angle so that you're reaching the whole underside evenly.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just kind of looking at this a little bit. I'm sorry to interrupt that.
You what?
I was looking at that. If you got 30 trimmers, hedge trimmers, and if a blade costs $70 a piece, and so now you're looking at a $2,100 replacement cost just to replace your blades. If you're doing that with a Dremel, now you just spent a lot of time trying to do it, and you're not going to be consistent, which is something that you just said is really important. Is you got a nice consistent edge throughout the whole thing, as opposed to if you dipped a little bit and went a little bit larger. But I mean, just the cost savings on something like this for the big guys, this is going to be huge.
Oh yeah.
This is pretty impressive.
And to, consistency, and I love to hit this thing because, again, people kind of pair it up with the word consistency, but repeatability, really being able to do the same thing many, many times. Like, okay, that's great if I can consistently do one blade or one half a blade, but I need to be able to do every blade in the whole fleet, and I need to do it all summer long for the next how many years. So repeatability is a key factor that we look at too, so that, again, as you can tell, it's just lay it on the table and touch every tooth. You don't need a lot of heavy information or super exact mechanical feeling and where I'm going to be with a Dremel, completely freehanding.
So, Gerd, now we're talking about consistency here. This is a great segue to this question. How does the consistent 45-degree angle from the Mag-6000 improve the quality of work compared to the blade sharpened with less precision? I assume if you use a Dremel or any other tool to sharpen a hedge trimmer blade, if you're not getting that consistent angle, will you suffer with tears in the, if you're trimming like a burning bush or something, will the cut quality not be as nice? Because I have your Mag 8200. I noticed with the consistent 30-degree angle that I'm getting, I'm not tearing on the grass. I sharpen every 8 to 12 hours, and it's a big difference having a consistent cut angle than having it all kind of jagged and all over the map.
Absolutely, and now exacerbate that across how many teeth that we have on any one of these hedge trimmer blades. Where now if you've got, we've got, right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 teeth on each side, and that's times 4 in edges. And if all of a sudden you're trying to hope for the best of getting that many edges consistent with a Dremel, it's just not going to happen. Probability is not on your side there. There's too many teeth to try and hope to get two even the same. Yes, just like with any tool, the angles that they are at, just like I explained all the design information and design research that went into making this machine, all the big companies like Stihl and all the hedge trimmer manufacturers that are making those machines have done the same thing to know that angle, the certain pitch, how quickly they're reciprocating, all these different factors that they designed into the machine to perform, what they promise. And so just like with your mower blades, when the tips aren't intact, well, it's never going to function or perform as the manufacturer had intended.
Exactly.
So as soon as you start changing all the angles on all these teeth, you're never going to get the same nice results as it was when it was a new blade. And the whole aim of what we're trying to do with this machine is to give you the edge back like it was from the factory so that you get that same performance again as if you bought a new blade.
That's really amazing to be able to see that. So we've kind of talked about the importance of that consistency and the repeatability, making sure that we're doing this all right. But I know some of the other guys are going to be asking about the price point that we have, and so what the return on investment is, and particular for a smaller guy like myself or some other guys. But the price is $1,585. And $1,585. And how quickly do you think they can see a turnaround of their investment? We just talked about 30 blades and being able to save $2,100 not buying blades. So how have you guys kind of looked at it and said this is what we think might be a good price point for them to be able to work with, and how quickly they can save some money and get their time savings money back?
So it's one of these, so I'm going to dodge this question a little bit. No, okay. I do not have an exact good return on investment number, and here's why. Part of the design of this machine, it's a little bit, let's say, chicken before the egg type of situation. There isn't a machine out there to compare against, so now we're comparing against all these different people with their Dremel. Now, I will say from talking to customers and sharpening shops and servicing dealers, I have heard anywhere from people charging $40 to $90 to sharpen a set of hedge trimmer blades. That's the range we have heard from places that will even accept the work. Most people reject the work and will sell a new blade. So this is why I kind of, jokingly said I'm dodging this question, because there really isn't, I can give you these kind of generalities of what we've seen in the industry, but if most people avoid doing the work because the work isn't cost effective, that's why I say it's this kind of chicken before the egg. We designed a machine for a problem, but it's a problem that doesn't have a relatively equal solution. We're coming in so drastically different in time savings that it's a little hard to say. So to your ROI question, you could say, well, if all my blades cost $90 to sharpen, or even let's say $50 to sharpen, well, you can do your math real quick. If it's, let's say it's once a season, twice a season, depending on, again, the volume of the cutting of hedges or use of the equipment. Or you can say, okay, if I'm not sharpening, or if I've never sharpened, if I couldn't get anybody to sharpen it, what is the replacement cost of the blade and how often am I replacing it? And we can use that to say, okay, well, how quickly do I get to that, let's say $1,600, right? We'll round up. So either way you slice it, the cost of the blades, or even if you can find somebody to sharpen them, and if they're charging between, again, that 40 to 90, even if we say, 50, it's not going to take long to pay off $1,600. It's a pretty small thing, especially when the blades cost that much. And that's really one of the reasons why we thought this would be something, along with everybody asking us about it, but why it would be something that people would see value in, because the blades are expensive and it's a time-consuming job.
Well, you just touched on something, though. This is another business opportunity for someone where you say Absolutely. It's so difficult to find somebody to sharpen, if you can find anybody to sharpen your hedge trimmer blades, and they're $40 to $80 what they're going to charge. Hey, you just saved, you just did $50 if you set that up as your price, and you're sharpening 2 sets of blades. You say it takes about 12 minutes, 24 minutes, $50. You just made yourself about $100 an hour.
Yeah, or again, let's make it easier math. Let's say you can get them done in 10 minutes, and you're making $50 every 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's good. I'm sorry, I used the wrong figure. My fault. But thank you for correcting me.
I just used a more round number just to say, okay, well, let's say they're 10 minutes a piece, and then if you want to use $50, and then you could say, well, you got 60 minutes an hour, yada yada, right? You can work out the math real straightforwardly there. But yes, it's a whole thing where now sharpening shops are seeing this as a whole nother service they can offer with this machine, because before it was something they didn't want to do because, again, the time-consuming nature of it. And I can't tell you how many lawnmower repair shops or servicing dealers that I've spoken to that they would say, oh yeah, the guy who does our hedge trimmers comes in on Saturday. He's a retired guy, and he sits there all day and does 3 machines. It's one of these things where most places were doing it as a service to their customers to retain the hedge trimmer sale business from that side of it, right? They still need to service their customer, even though this repair item or this service item is kind of a losing proposition. But I need to take care of this customer who wants me to sharpen it because they keep buying hedge trimmers from me. So now we're kind of giving profitability back to this job.
Oh, it is. This is a great business
side hustle
opportunity for someone to get into. With my mower blade sharpener, Garrett, I haven't pushed it too hard because I've been so busy mowing, but I can get into the business of sharpening lawnmower blades and charging $10 a blade. And guess what? I'm going to give them a great product because I have a mower blade sharpener that sharpens it at the correct angle, and I can provide the correct balance too. And in good faith, I can give them that blade back, knowing that I gave them a great, blade back that's high quality and sharpened. So now the Mag-6000, as we kind of wrap this up here quickly, it looks like it's supposed to ship. It was ship out kind of like the pre-orders are now open, but the end of March. Are you guys shipping these out yet, or what's kind of the status on this right now? Because I think you're getting ready to roll these out, right?
So pretty much most all of the pre-orders have gone out already. There are a couple that were, you could say, from the expo where we're still calling people and seeing if they want to change anything or so on and so forth. So, there's maybe only a handful of units that have to go out yet from the Equip Expo. Already we've sent out quite a few units in the field, and people are already buying belts and having very good results with them. And big fingers crossed we haven't had any shipping damage. So that was a big kind of worry we were having about how things were. You always try to design, and that's another thing. You think about not only all the machine design, now you have to design all the packaging so that UPS or a freight carrier doesn't destroy it.
They do that.
Yes. So we were a little, or I should say, I was probably the most nervous of just going, oh God, I hope nothing gets bent. And they've all been traveling very well. So it seems like the pack we designed has been plenty stout for it. It's similar to like how you got your 8200. We bolted to a big piece of OSB, and we have a double wall box with then a double wall liner and then top and bottom liners, and we pack it quite well. But
hey guys,
that's always one of those things when something's new.
This is a novel concept. We have an American-made company that actually cares about their products, and it's made here. So that's good. Before we let you go, is there anything that we didn't cover? I'm just trying to think. I don't know. We covered a lot.
No, essentially, again, unlike the lawnmower blade sharpeners, there's actually the lawnmower blade sharpeners are actually a bit more complicated because there are so many different types of blades and sizes and all these different things. The hedge trimmer sharpener is really quite straightforward. It's a much simpler product to operate and use, and that's also that other nice thing. The shops that were doing it with that retired guy who was the only one who could, kind of keep an angle correct. Now, essentially, kind of anybody in the shop can do the job and not have to rely on that one specialized person that, might retire one day on you. So that's kind of the biggest thing from, what we heard in the industry, as well as, again, the landscapers who have had or essentially been forced to just swap blades out or throw blades away because, well, they don't have the time to have somebody sit there and spend 40 minutes on a blade. So
wow.
It's really, again, all about that time savings, consistency, and repeatability.
Right. So go ahead and tell us about your website again, if you can give us that contact information so someone can reach out to you guys and let us know how they can.
Yep, you can head on over to magnamatic.com or give us a call at 800-328-1110. We'll be happy to talk about your application, whether it be for mower blades or hedge trimmer blades. And the units are essentially out now. I would say at this time, at the time when this is going to come out or based on today, there's maybe about a week lead time at worst for the hedge trimmer sharpeners. So they're essentially ready to go. The unit is available by itself, so that 1585 is the unit if you just want to set it on a bench top. You won't be able to see it in the full view here, but we have it on our pedestal stand as well as hooked up to a Mag-200 dust collector. So we have a system option with just the pedestal stand, or then system 17 and then system 18. 18 has the dust collector with it, so that everything is kind of self-contained and you're not dealing with the dust. Of course, this machine does make a lot less dust because you're sharpening less per time. And lastly, something that people may ask, the task light is standard on the hedge trimmer sharpener. That's included on every one of them. So you always have that. And the two switches that you see here, there's an outlet that is in the bottom of the electrical box. This blue switch will turn on the dust collector. Now, if somebody doesn't have a dust collector, there's just an auxiliary outlet underneath there. The red switch, of course, turns the belt on, but all machines are coming with that auxiliary outlet and with the task light right away. We also package them with one 100 grit belt that's installed on the machine, and then we give you a 120 grit belt so that you have that if you would like to put a finer finish on your blades. We will most likely, in the coming month or two, even offer some higher grit blades. We've already had some customers who want to have up at 180 and 220 grit options. And so we'll probably have those on offer as well.